Hey there guys! Today I'm going to have a conversation about Hobie versus Old Town fishing kayaks. Now this is a conversation I've been wanting to have for a long time, but haven't necessarily had the freedom to do so. But right now there is a huge glut of used fishing kayaks on the market, lightly used ones, at really good deals. And it's got me wondering if it's time to bring a Hobie back into my fleet. And one of the reasons I'm thinking about that, of course, is the cost is good, but also the nature of the areas that I'm fishing. I'm fishing more coastal areas than I used to rather than inland is changing, and so I have different needs I have from my fishing kayak. And I already have two salty Old Town 120 PDLs, so I could easily sell one, incorporate a Hobie, and have the best of both worlds. So I thought I'd go over my thought process on this decision that I'm making and talk about the 12 things that I see as key differences between these two powerhouse brands in the kayak fishing market. Now, there are many manufacturers of fishing kayaks out there, many of them good, but in terms of the ones that are producing what I would consider high quality, reliable, pedal-driven kayaks, there are really only three. That's Hobie, Old Town, and native fishing kayaks. And to be honest, native fishing kayaks are really geared really heavily towards bass fishermen. They tend to be much wider and slower than what I'm looking for my needs, so they're just not something that I'm considering. But I know that they have improved the reliability of their drive systems. Everybody else's drive systems are a little sketchy. Now, there are several other kayak fishing brands out there producing basically V1 versions of the Hobie Mirage drive that doesn't have the 180 drive or anything. And those drives are probably okay, but not what I'm looking for in terms of my needs. So today I'm going to go over 12 categories comparing these two brands. And one of the reasons I want to do this video is that there are so many people out on social media right now that will say this kayak from Old Town is the best and this kayak from Hobie is the best. Most of them only have experience fishing out of one or two kayaks, maybe for a few years. I have over a decade worth of kayak fishing experience. I started in a Hobie Revolution 13. I've also fished out of a Hobie Oasis tandem pedal-driven kayak, and then upgraded to a Hobie 13 Revo with the 180 drive. And I moved inland about 5-6 years ago, and my needs changed in terms of a fishing kayak. And I ended up selling my Hobie Revo. My Hobie Oasis actually broke, the hole failed underneath the seat, just cracked really heavily. And one of the Mirage drives failed too, so it just seemed like a time to get rid of that boat. And ended up moving into Old Town and started working with Old Town, and I got to go through a variety of their fishing kayaks, including the Sportsman's 120 PDL, which I really enjoyed. It's a great flat water inland super stable boat. I also for a short while fished out of the Big Water 132. It was then called the Predator. I didn't like it, it's too heavy. And then I fished for a short time out of, well, over a year out of the Autopilot 120, which I actually really enjoyed, but left that kayak for other reasons. And eventually just settled on their more entry-level boat, the Salty 120 PDL. It's very light, very fast, very versatile. So I have a decade's worth of experience fishing out of lots of different boats from these manufacturers. I think the only really key boat I'm missing from both of them is I just have very little experience out of Pro Angler. I fished out of them like a couple times when I borrowed a friend's, but they're just not the kayak that I am looking for in terms of their size and cost. They're very expensive. They're getting their I think they're over $4,000 now for a new pedal-driven kayak, which is just not something I'm willing to commit to. So anyways, let's get down to these 12 different categories. And the first, of course, is price, which I've already sort of brushed on, and hands down, Old Town is a winner here. Most of their kayaks, if you look at a comparable kayak within the Hobie fleet, is going to set you back about 1/3 to 20% less. So 20 to 30% less to get into an Old Town kayak than it is a Hobie kayak brand new. So I definitely would give the win to Old Town on this one. Perplexingly, Hobies actually retain their value better than Old Town's, although Old Town also has a superior warranty program. So they have a 5-year warranty on the PDL drive, a lifetime warranty on the hull that's only for the original owner, and then Hobie has a 3-year warranty. on the whole and drive. So I'm going to give the win to Old Town here, especially because you're paying less for a better warranty program. And I will say that 100% Old Town has probably one of the best customer service programs in the kayak fishing industry, which is why I was always happy to work with them, because I knew they would take care of people who bought new boats and had issues with them. And every single time that I had any issues with one of my followers having problems with their kayaks, they stood behind their product. Hobie, in my own personal experience, has gone a little bit sideways in terms of I had some issues with one of the original 180 Mirage drives that was about 15 days out of warranty. I went to the original kayak shop I bought the kayak from, and they said they couldn't do anything for me. I went to another kayak shop that I knew people there might be a little more willing to help me, and they were able to get Hobie to come through. So it really does kind of depend on which shop you work with and how willing they are to sort of push Hobie to do the right thing there. They ended up scrapping that original version 1 of the 180 drive and coming out the second version because of all the problems with the first version, and they didn't just do the right thing and give everybody the parts. They made you pay several $100s for them. So again, I'm going to give the win to Old Town on that one. So that moves into durability and reliability. So I now have about 5 years plus experience in both brands. I have never had a single serious mechanical issue or hull issue with my Old Town fishing kayaks. Nothing. Every once in a while, I'll take the prop off and clean it off and put a little extra grease down in there. That is it. I never have done anything. Whereas my Hobies, I had a constant barrage of problems. On my Revo, my original Revo, I broke the idler pulley, the pulley on the front. I broke that twice. I broke the spine on my new one. I broke 2 fins. The fins just tore away. This wasn't like I hit anything on my Oasis. And then my Oasis, the seat cracked underneath the rear, or the plastic actually cracked underneath the rear seat. And then to do a very complex patch in there to try and make it salvageable, but I just lost faith in that boat, especially considering we were taking out on potentially dangerous waters. So again, I'm going to give the durability win to Old Town here again. But the reason why the Old Towns are so durable is they are very heavy. They're a very heavy fishing kayak for their size. You will find the comparable size kayaks in the Hobie lineup are considerably lighter. So if you're looking for something lighter, then definitely Hobie is the winner there in terms of how lightweight they are. They're just easier to load and unload. Now let's talk about like design, overall design and usability. For sure here, I feel like Hobie has the advantage. There's just a lot of things that they've incorporated into their kayaks that are just really well thought out. The cockpit layout is extremely good in almost all of their fishing kayaks. Except for the Revo, I feel like they still haven't put gear track in it, which boggles my mind. But, you know, they have the Lowrance Ready system, which can be adapted over to many different types of sonar. I ran Hummingbird in it with no problem. I just like the placement of everything in terms of pockets, and I just feel like it's well designed. It's designed to take a scupper cart. That's just very smart. I feel like other brands are relying on third-party vendors to produce carts that will work with their kayaks, and it can be a real challenge to find that right cart for your fishing kayak if it isn't designed specifically for it. And so I think Hobie really nailed it on that. I think their hatch system is great. They have very accessible hatches with inserts and everything. All around, I think that Hobie has done a really good job of making their cockpit layout design very useful. They have lots of accessories that you can attach, rails, and so on and so forth. They've really done a great job. I feel like Old Town's kind of slacked on this department. I mean, I really think they blew it in the Autopilot 120. The inside of there's all this space, and they hardly did anything with it. The pocket design doesn't make any sense to me. And the track system on the Big Water, I absolutely couldn't stand because it's not a standard track system. Why not just put a standard track system in there? Would have been a lot better with more space. I will definitely give Hobie the win on usability and design for kayak anglers. Now let's talk about innovation. Now, no doubt Hobie is basically the kayak company that started the pedal-driven kayak fishing market. And they've made huge advances, first with the Mirage Drive system itself, and then the 180 drive system, the kick-up fins, and they've recently come out with the 360-degree drive, which I will say has had a bit of a rocky start. There's a lot of maintenance issues with that drive system and a lot of failures. Just go on YouTube and Google that, and you will find lots of guys getting stranded by broken belts and systems like that. So I would say that they are doing a very good job of moving it forward. And I'm going to give this a tie. I'm going to give it to Old Town too, because they really have carved out their own niche, not just with their highly reliable PDL drive system, which I think is great, well designed and well thought out, but they are also really doing some innovative things with motors in kayaks. You know, I think Ocean Kayak actually tried to do this many years ago, and I think it was just a little bit before its time. But, you know, bringing the iPilot system into a fishing kayak was absolutely brilliant, and incorporating a simpler Minn Kota system that locks right into the cockpit is great on their MK106 too. So I really think that they've done a great job with that, and I expect to see more innovation from them on that side. I like it that they're doing their own thing and really innovating in a novel direction. There is definitely a demand and a need for motorized kayaks, and I have nothing against them. I'm just all about people getting out there and getting in the right kayak that's for them. And Hobie keeps moving forward with small incremental innovations in their pedal drive system. I'll be excited to see what they do in the future. Now, one of the things that does frustrate me a bit about Hobie is that their entire system is designed to have all these upgrades. And so it always bothered me that I'd have to buy this kayak and then invest a couple $100 more to get it to the point where it was a better performing kayak. Like you have to buy a sailing rudder and put a bigger rudder on it so you get a better turning radius, or you've got to buy turbo fins on there so that you get a little bit more speed. Why not just give us all of that in the initial package? Stop making us waste our money on buying these frivolous parts that we're going to end up just throwing away at the end of the day and not using. I feel like Old Town does deliver a kayak that, you know, could use some upgrades, but overall I feel like there's nothing on there I'm like, oh, I need a bigger rudder or a bigger prop or something like that to make it go faster. For the most part, I feel like they're doing a good job just delivering you a quality product from the start. So I will say that I prefer Old Town in that you're not having to make all these additional investments after you buy your brand new kayak just to get it up to the point where you think it should be. So now let's move into some of the real world application reasons why I'm looking at a Hobie. And that is, this past year I spent a month on the Oregon coast, and a few months before that I was down in San Diego fishing out of my Old Town Salty, and I just realized how much I missed my Mirage Drive system when launching and landing on beaches in the surf. When I beach launched in my Hobie Revolution, I would get the kayak down into the surf, go ahead and lock the pedal drive system into it and push forward the pedal. That flattened the fins against the bottom of the kayak. And then I could literally just sit there and wait for the waves and then jump in the kayak, and the drive system's already installed. I just start pedaling and push through the next series of waves and hopefully not get it handed to me when I was going out through the surf. Likewise, coming back in, oftentimes I would just land with the drive system in place and just pin it against the bottom of the kayak. I would just pin the fins and they would be protected as I slid up onto the sand. No problem, unload the kayak, roll it over, pop the drive system out. With the Old Town Salty, you know, the drive system can't be deployed all the way down the surf just because it would be banging on the bottom as the surf goes up and down. And so I had to leave it up in a stowed position, then jump in the kayak, swing it down, turn the knob, and pedal and try to get forward. And that actually was much more challenging to get the timing right. You had to have a really long period between sets of waves in order to achieve a safe launch. Likewise, on landing, you had a lot less opportunity to nail a surf landing. Yeah, this might not be a problem for folks in the Gulf Coast where they just don't see the swell height that we see here on the West Coast, but it definitely made it a lot more challenging for me to come in and land safely. So I would definitely give surf launching and landing as a win to Hobie. Likewise, we were fishing the back of San Diego Bay, and there's a lot of seagrass back there. That's why there's sea turtles and stuff hanging out back there and lots of fish. And I was having to pull that PDL drive system up every 15, 20 seconds during really heavy outflow of the tides because it was just getting grass wrapped like crazy. And I was having to pop my drive out, pull away the grass, put it back down every few minutes during heavy grass flow. And it was driving me bonkers. Sidra was fishing in the autopilot, so she didn't have any problem because it was just chewing through it. But it did really make me miss having a Mirage drive. And so if I was going to be at any time fishing in, heavily vegetated lakes or seagrass beds, I would definitely want to be in my Hobie rather than a PDL drive kayak. That being said, that's not something I'm going to be doing a lot of in Washington State. Even when I bass fish here, most of my lakes are fairly clear and the vegetation doesn't come up to the surface where I'm bass fishing, but there are times where I'm having to pop that PDL drive up and paddle through it all. So again, this is another win I'm going to give to Hobie. Likewise, when we're talking about moving these drives up and down, I just love how compact the Mirage drive is. It is a very lightweight drive system. It's over 20 pounds for the PDL system, and it's big and bulky. And when me and my wife are both going fishing in our salties, 2 PDL drives gobble up a lot of space in the back of an SUV. So it's just something that drives me crazy when going on these trips. I wish they'd come up with a less bulky version of the PDL drive, one that doesn't necessarily have that giant built-in container attached to it. So I'm going to give the win to transportability on the drive system to Hobie as well. But where I look at where I live here in the inland Northwest, I still very much love the PDL drive system for maintaining position over reefs. It's incredible for targeting walleye and jigging. I don't do a ton of bass fishing, but it's very handy in pulling bass out away from structure or maneuvering into structure. Even when I'm out here in our combat, sockeye, and Chinook salmon fisheries, being able to just hands-free slow down my troll speed so I don't run into the back of a boat in front of me and maneuver tightly around them is absolutely amazing. And being able to do that even while I'm fighting a fish or bringing up my gear because maybe a boat 10 foot away from me hooked up into a big salmon and it's coming at me, I can reverse away and retrieve my gear at the same time. That's a huge advantage. I also took my PDL drive, Sportsman's and Salties out onto reefs and jetty structure, and having that hands-free reverse was an absolutely amazing experience in terms of making me a more effective kayak angler. So I still very much love and appreciate the PDL drive for those instances where I want to have that hands-free reverse. So I will definitely give the win to Old Town on that function. And then finally, just talking about the 2 drives themselves, is overall it's maintenance. On my Hobie Mirage drives, I always had to do a lot of maintenance in terms of cleaning, and there's a lot of exposed components within that drive system that are vulnerable to sand and such getting in there. And so you really have to do a good job of cleaning them, especially if you're using them with salt. Whereas the PDL drive, there's really everything's sealed except for just one little exposed pin that comes out that the prop attaches to. And I fished that thing in the salt every day for like 30 days straight. All I ever did was come back and just lightly rinse that under the hose. I didn't even take the prop off. I would just run water in there for 10 seconds and then just set it down. And I pulled that prop off when we got back like a couple months later after the snow started to melt. There was 0 rust on that thing. It was in perfect condition. And that is all the maintenance I needed to do. that is great. And it never failed. Like my PDL drives, some of them have literally hundreds of days on them out on the water, probably over 1,000 miles, and I've never had a failure. They've gotten a little bit noisier, I have noticed that, but it isn't any harder to pedal them, and they work flawlessly. So kudos to whoever designed the PDL drive system. It's a very, very good design. So where does that leave me? I'm still thinking about adding a Hobie Revo back into my fleet, just because it would give me that little bit more comfort in terms of going out and doing some beach launching. I have aspirations to go back to Southern California during a warmer period, not only to target bluefin tuna offshore, but also to go out at La Jolla and really target some of those pelagics down there, like yellowtail. And I would really think I would love having a Hobie Revo for doing that. But I'm still going to think about it. I would love to hear your thoughts below on the whole Hobie versus Old Town debate. And I will look forward to reading all of your comments and get back to you on any questions that you might have. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Just remember, fish smarter, not harder. Bye, guys.